Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I'm here with Tabatha Thorell. Hi, Tabatha.
Hello, Angela. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm very excited to talk to you. We've already been connecting on some of the mom things that we were discussing and working at home and all those fun things, but I want to introduce Tabatha to you. So Tabatha is a powerhouse entrepreneur whose journey weaves through diverse roles: devoted wife, mother of five, acclaimed speaker, best-selling author, coach, podcaster, and seasoned real estate investor. With her husband, she navigates the real estate landscape, empowering families through the Legacy Wealth Project, to secure generational prosperity. I love that. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's talk about, where do we even start? Why real estate? Why real estate? What got you into real estate?
You know, I will give all the accolades to my husband on that. Because when we were in college, we knew we were going to get married. We're high school sweethearts.
Aww.
We were like, want to get married. We knew we'd be entrepreneurs in some way. He has a family of farming, which is like your own entrepreneurship in its own way. We just didn't like people telling us what to do. So I knew I was never going to work like for somebody very long. I might work for a little bit, but I was like, we're going to do something ourselves, you know?
Right.
I didn't grow up with entrepreneurship. I didn't know what that looked like. Honestly, I don't even know if I knew what that word was when I was 19 years old.
Oh yeah. No, totally. I agree.
I'm going to date myself, but this is like back in the early 2000s, right? So I didn't even know what that word was. I just knew I didn't like working for other people. So we knew this about ourselves. We knew we wanted a big family. We wanted time freedom. We had these big dreams, and we come from very rural, small towns. So having these big dreams are kind of like not poo-pooed on, but like no one was growing, like no one was watering or nurturing them, you know, except for each other. And so we knew that we wanted some sort of security because we knew the government wasn't going to take care of us. We knew we were going to have that 401k waiting for us at the end of a corporate job.
Exactly.
And my husband, a few years prior, his dad had bought a few rental properties. His dad knew nothing about rental properties.
Okay.
I think he just did it because he's super competitive and his brother bought some. So he's like, oh, I'm going to do that too. And I don't want any more cattle because if you're from the ag world, usually you have cattle along with farming. And he hated cows. So he's like, I'm going to have rental properties. Yeah. So my husband kind of got like thrown in the mix and he saw it just a little bit. I think my husband was like 16 years old. He helped his dad renovate because my husband's very skilled with like contracting and carpentry work. So he saw that. He's like, hey, Tab, I want to buy a house, rent out the top and live in the bottom for free. Do you want to help me, you know, renovate this? And I'm like, yay, of course. Like, let's do this. It's going to be just like the shows on TV, right?
HGTV.
And 9 layers of wallpaper later, and like we got the house up and going and he lived in the bottom, rented out the top. It was the weirdest dynamic because where we were renting from was college students. So he'd have these college students, and whenever you're working with college students, especially young college students, you deal with their parents.
Yeah.
So here this was a 21-year-old kid, like talking with like a 40 to 50-year-old, you know, parent about the rent and where the money goes and all this stuff. So it was just kind of fun, but he knew that that was the way to wealth. Like that was one thing that we had seen that we were like, we just had that belief from seeing other, you know, millionaires and things like that. And honestly, becoming a millionaire really wasn't even in my dream wheelhouse yet, but like just knowing like to create that was like, okay, we want to do this. So he bought his second one within the next year. And we kind of stayed there for a while until we started having kids. And then we just started accumulating properties and just honestly doing it a lot wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We didn't have the right mentorship. We didn't, I would read these books. I would look at the coaching programs. They weren't equal. So I just consumed all the books and did all the things and, you know, did it that way, just the hard way, like really.
Right.
Yeah, we just got married, had babies and kept doing the real estate thing.
I love it. So, question about your real estate. So, when you go in and buy a property, are you buying it to gut it and renovate it? Are you kind of like fixing it up a little bit? Do you kind
Mhm.
of flip them? Like, what is your avenue in the real estate investing world?
So if you know anything about the real estate world, bigger pockets, right? Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
They like did the term burr. And before it was burr, we were doing it before it even was a term, right?
Right,
So it's
right,
just
right.
like you buy and you renovate and you rent and then you refinance. And so we buy properties obviously that need a little TLC because otherwise, especially when we were young, we couldn't
Mm,
afford it. Do you think we could afford
right,
it? 2119? No. That's
right,
why it's like
right.
9 wallpapers later, Angela.
Yeah.
Okay. Like we were doing the work
I
and we
love it.
like to take old things and make them look pretty.
Yeah.
But the thing was, is we were doing everything ourselves and we were like killing
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. But we do buy
Mm-hmm.
properties that need a little TLC because you can always get a better price point. The better price point, the
Yep.
more money you're going to make, right? And so, like, even if we do get a contractor out there now and like doing the work, we still do the numbers and like, okay, this is a good investment. Even if we lose money right away, we look at in the long term, right? Like in
Yeah.
real estate, you have to look at things. I think that's what's so scary for people. They're like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, but what if the roof goes out? What if this goes out? And da da da. You have to align yourself where you've protected yourself enough to stick the long game because we were
Yeah.
in it for the long game. We weren't in it for real estate to make us money necessarily per month right away, like to, be
Mm.
our income source. We had other income sources for that. We looked at it from the beginning as a long-term strategy for retirement, for character building for our kids, character building for ourselves, who
Yep.
we could meet with that, what we could learn in the process. Like we looked at all. I think if you just look at the numbers, like right now, for
Mm-hmm.
people who have uncertainty and they're scared, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't. It's like playing the market, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
play stocks for like 60 days and think you're going to roll in the dough. No, there's
Right.
going to be ups and downs. But real estate is the safest investment if you go through it long term because it's an asset. It's something physical. Unlike a stock that could literally
Yep.
plummet and you are in the
Mm-hmm.
hands of somebody else's business, real
Mm-hmm.
estate, I can literally take that property, even if it's like, you know, a really bad property. I'm not going to use terms that can't be used on my podcast, but
Yeah.
we're talking about like the house that nobody wants.
Right.
You can make it that way, even in the market today. Even in
Mm-hmm.
the market today, even with inflation and
Yeah. Yeah.
cost, you can be creative. And that's
Yeah.
the thing I think that's helped us is doing it ourselves for so long is that we're so creative. Those are gifts, those are the intangibles that you can't get if you just throw your money at an investment. Even a syndication, which
Mm-hmm.
all a syndication is a property that a whole bunch of people put their money in together and somebody else runs it. Like you don't run it. So it's literally like your money and then you're gone, which is great once you already know the things. But we have learned and grown so much by doing it ourselves that
Yep.
I can't give that away for anything. And
Yeah.
so that's why, like, when we teach people to buy a single family property, it might not be the most passive way, but it's the way that's going to build the character for you and your family to continue and then eventually by 10 because that's what we like people to do for
Yeah.
like a retirement fund and how to hire that out and really build your family's character around it. Get in, get messy. Even if you're not a carpenter, like still get your kids in there, hire
Yeah.
a contractor, let your kids knock down a few walls, let your kids paint a few walls, let your kids take out the trash of the house because there's always going to be trash,
Right. Right.
and like get that nitty gritty. You get that nitty gritty. So then you know when you're paying for it,
Mm-hmm.
what that's worth and what
Mm-hmm.
that means for you. And even in the whining, because let me tell you, I have 5 girls. They whine about, I don't want to do this. This is hot. Oh my gosh, I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I'm
Uh-huh.
tired. It's like it's building them up to know, first of all, what hard work is so that when they go out in the world, they want to
Mm-hmm.
be more valuable with their mindset, but they know what it means to go in and work with their hands and make something old and cruddy like beautiful and
Yeah.
redone. That's what we love about it.
Oh, I love real estate so much. So I also love the fact that you can take something and you can add value to it through your own sweat equity, and that's so important. And I think not enough people realize, what value you have. And you're so right. I love your vision of, going for the long term
Yeah.
because that's really what a lot of business ownership is. Like people think they're going to start a business and then immediately they've gotten wealthy. Like, oh, I've got freedom and my time is
Right.
mine. And like, like anyone else, like sometimes your time is yours and sometimes it's really, really not.
Right.
Like
Yep.
when you have
Exactly.
deadlines, and there's nobody to fall back on. Those deadlines
Yeah.
are your deadlines and your deadlines only. And so,
Yeah.
you might be putting in a 24-hour day because
Yeah.
you are going to grind it out. But,
Are.
at the same time, that sense of accomplishment is unmatched.
Right. And then the sky's the limit too. So
Hmm.
you have this, it's like the pendulum swing.
Yeah.
You have over here where like literally you are the person. Like
Yeah.
there's no one to fall back on. You can't blame anybody. I mean, you can, but at the end of the day, a true leader takes their own ownership. I don't care
Hmm.
if you can blame the contractor, you can blame the flooring guy. At the end of the day, the buck stops with you.
Yes.
But on the flip side of that, I think what always has just kept me in the game because we have been knocked out so many times
Hmm.
is that there's no ceiling. Like
Right. Right.
literally, like our mind, my mind and my husband mind, just because we have grown up in such just like a small town, which I love for so many things, but there's a lot of like limiting beliefs just
Oh,
because
yeah.
people haven't seen it, right? And so
Mhm.
the only thing that's going to cap me is my own limitations, my
Yep.
own mind. And that's why I constantly pay for masterminds to be in the room where I am not the smartest person. I am not the highest earner. I am not the prettiest. I am not the skinniest. I am not, I don't have the
Hmm.
best marriage. I am constantly in these different rooms and
Hmm.
not always at the same time, but like I'm in these rooms because I want to learn. I want to grow until I am in the ground. Like, I don't care if
Hmm.
I'm 101. I still want to go to seminars with my little wheelchair. Like, I
Hmm.
still learn and I still want to give wisdom to people because that's the true meaning of wealth. Like
Right.
when we created the Legacy Wealth Project, people ask me like, why'd you name it that? What's this? I did it purposely because wealth has always been tied to like these rich old men or
Hmm.
like the miser or like the wealthy, the
Yeah.
elite, which those words are great. I love the sense of like taking ownership of being elite, meaning you've separated yourself from people who are okay with mediocre. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not, the word isn't bad, but I want to put a new spin on it. Like wealth is not just the mansions and the money and all of those things. Wealth is knowledge, it's prosperity, it's knowing where you're at and where you are going. And it's the legacy of it is not just teaching this to your kids verbally, but showing them, meaning not just by I'm working hard. Because
Right.
I grew up with a dad who worked really hard. That was awesome.
Hmm.
He never included us in anything. And same with
Yeah.
my husband. He never really asked me what my dreams were. What business
Hmm.
did I want? What characteristics? How did he know me? I don't blame my dad. I love him. He did the best he could with the mindset that he had.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate enough to have the mindset, and it is my moral obligation to help that with my kids and know them enough and bring them in and say, what do you want in this family vision together? Even if they never want a rental property, they will understand what real estate does for them, meaning in taxes and
Mhm.
write-offs and business and wealth creation and what you leave your kids and like all of those things. They are going to have an understanding of that. Then they get to decide.
That's
And
exactly right.
I don't have to say like, always like, I told you, I told you, I told you, or didn't you see me and dad doing that? Because sometimes like we hear this, like, show, don't teach, teach, don't show. Like what it's a
Hmm.
double-edged sword because if you just show them and you don't have any communication of why that's important, it's like kids, they're inundated, especially now with like social media and all the stuff.
Yep.
Like you
Yeah.
said, like if I'm not a YouTube success in 24 hours, then my life is
Hmm.
horrible. Like,
Hmm.
they just
Hmm.
think like, oh, I can just get money like that, or I can be famous like this. And we're just a very Instapot nation. So we have to show them like even compounding with houses, or I'll give you an example. Do you care if I share a story?
No, not at all. Please
This,
do.
okay. So I have a 15-year-old daughter and she wants a car.
Hmm.
And our kids, we always said, we will go halvesies on you. And we do
Hmm.
that for two reasons, because we say you are blessed to be our child. And so we are happy to help you with your vision. And that's my gift and honor as a parent to be able to help with such a big, your first car. Like even
Right.
if it's
It's
old
amazing.
beater, like
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
freedom. It's
It's
mine.
yours. Right. Right.
If I can be a part in that, that's awesome. But I'm not going to do it all. So if you don't earn anything, you don't get a car. Like, this isn't like,
Mhm.
I'll give you $2,000. No, it's whatever you make, we will
Mhm.
match. It
Mhm.
shows them accountability. They get to do that. They know that. But we've also taught our kids, you can do a car, and by all means get a car, because that means that I don't have to chauffeur you around,
Right,
right?
right.
But how are you going to pay for that car, like gas and do things? Because my kids are active. So during the school
Mhm.
year, having a job is just really not in the cards for them, unless it's just like, the babysitting job here and just the random thing, right? So we've said, like, what, like, get an income property, do a rental property. And we have told our kids this since they were like 10 years old.
Yep.
And so finally this summer, our daughter was talking about a car and she's talking about money and all this stuff. And I brought it up, and she was like, Mom, I just don't want to talk about money. I just don't want to talk about it. And like got really emotional, as we all do with money.
Uh,
But I'm like, in our household, we really try to keep money neutral. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't come up in emotion, but we try to keep it as neutral as we can. We don't say things are expensive or cost too much. It's how can we get them? All those things. So I said, hey, okay, I got to step back as a parent here. So I step back and I say, hey, what is it about money? Like, that's giving it. Mom, just stop, just stop. I was like, okay, clearly this is not good. So I said, okay, I'm going to share something with you, totally neutral. You don't even have to like respond, but I just want to ask you, what do you think about buying an income property? Like, just first thing, there's no right or wrong. I'm not going to get upset. Like, when I say that to you, like, what comes up for you? Just first thing, just this is a very safe place. I will have no reaction. And I've done this for my kids so they know that's truth. I'm going to honor that, right? Even if they're saying something crazy, I just got to hold it together as a mom. And
right.
she said, well, I just think like you have to go out and you have to spend all this time and it's so expensive and you have to go and buy this house with all this money. And then you have to go and you have to find all these tenants and it takes so much time and it's so overwhelming. And then you have to go and fix things. And it's just like, it's just too much. And so inside, I want to be like, no, that's not true, And okay, that's her perception of it, which
Uh-huh.
that's what she's seen. Because that was
Mhm.
me and my husband for the first 17 years of owning real estate. That was us. So she picked up on it. So she saw that. And I said, okay, can I just give you a scenario? And she's like, yeah, of course she's going to say, yeah. Roll her eyes. I'm like, okay, what if we went out, you and I and daddy, and we found a property? And we helped you run the numbers because that's what we do. And it
Right.
was something that we thought that if we went to the bank, you could afford. And we go to the bank and they tell us yes or no. And if they say yes, and you need some assistance with some of the payment, we could help you also do a loan to get you the house. And then we got you the house. Then we introduced you to our property manager who would take care of the house for you while you're at school. They would find the tenants, they would fix the things, they would take care of the rent and just send you a check every month. And all you would have to do is maybe talk to them once a month, maybe, if
Right.
something was a problem.
Right. Right. Right.
And then if you have any issues at all, any issues, you can come to me and daddy, because we're your mentors in this, and ask us, how do I solve this problem? And most
Mhm.
likely we've already solved it because we've done it and we can help you through the process. Do you think you could do that? And she goes, well, yeah, just like find the property and then just like meet some people. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I
But
love it.
so many people do all the things what she did in their head, when in all
Mhm.
reality, it's about the people that you have helped. Do you think when my husband bought his first property at 21 that he had help, or do you think he went and did it himself?
Yeah, he probably
He
did
had
it
help.
himself. Well, you
He
think so?
No, this is what I mean by that. He
Yeah.
did it himself, but he went and found the people because he didn't have the credit.
Oh,
He
right.
didn't
Yeah.
have the loans to do it, right? So he had to find the who. But
Hmm.
but then he went himself. He took himself, his mindset, used the people's who. He used my in-laws'
Mhm.
credibility,
Mhm.
co-signed for it, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
trust me, his parents will hold him accountable. They weren't
Oh,
just going
yeah.
to give him anything, right?
Yeah.
He figured out the money for the down payment, and then he went and figured out, oh, my girlfriend's going to help me renovate this, right? And he put the sweat equity into it, and he did all of those things. Like with my daughter, we're trying to teach her more the who, and then she's along the process to learn the how. But because she found somebody who has a 20-year veteran in this, which
Yeah.
is number one for people. Find the people who've done it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we already have the scars on our back.
Mm-hmm.
We're tired. We have the bags under our eyes. Like we've done this before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Use us and we will teach you. I'm not going to do this for you. I'm going to show you some of the people that can literally do the stuff for you,
Mm-hmm.
but you're
Mm-hmm.
going to learn it along the way. And then you have this cash flow. And the thing that we haven't done very well yet, but I'm understanding that they can understand this. I didn't want to overwhelm them,
Sure.
but I'm going to teach them the compounding. Like if you invest this and it has a 20% return, what it will do. And I want to show them the numbers because I think numbers are powerful in that, and seeing that and saying, if you guys get started now, this is what would happen.
Yeah.
And showing them those things like, okay, if we do build a little online business for you, if you earn, even $1,000 a month, if we
Mm-hmm.
even take half of that and we invest it in real estate and a property, and again, we help mentor them, we show them where to put it. This is where your return is when you're 21. When you're really ready to go out on your own and do all those things, this is what you could have.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you keep it in there, this is what you could have at 30. My kids all want big families. I'm like, I want you to be able to stay at home or do whatever you want with them. This money, this nest egg will allow you to do that, where we struggled so much in that. And I would love to show them that even at a young age. But even women my age, I'm like, give me something, like give me a number and let's compound that for the next 20 years.
Right.
So you're 50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You still got a lot of life, even at 50. Okay. You got a lot of life, grandbabies, you have all the stuff. You got businesses, people you still got to inspire. But in 20 years, if you do something that's going to reap that, like how financially abundant you are and how much freedom that is, that's huge.
Well, and the opportunity to teach your kids at this age what that looks like is so powerful. Like I have my son is 17 and he's getting ready to, he's in a senior year of high school, getting ready to go off on his own. But a few years ago, he realized very quickly that working for himself, he would make so much more money than working for someone else. So he worked for Chick-fil-A. He was making, he was working like, I don't know, 15 hours a week and making minimum wage, $7.25 here in Georgia, which is just pathetic. And so it took him like, he'd work his butt off for, pennies. Like he'd get to the end of the 2 weeks and he was like $140 paycheck. Like I know.
Terrible. And then they look at it and they're like, wait, what's this number that the government took out?
Right,
and you're like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's for your future that they're not going to give you. But yeah, so he learned quickly. And so he started doing little side jobs here and there and, painting mailboxes or detailing cars. And so now he's full on detailing cars. That's all he does. But he'll make, several $100s in a weekend, And so like what he used to make at Chick-fil-A is like, he wouldn't even go out, leave the house for that money anymore. But he quickly
and he has
learned.
the tax write-off.
Yes.
He has a tax write-off for that. It's like, he's got it, you learn that, you teach them that like way early, right?
Yeah. Well, and then, and then he had, he'd been earning this money and he didn't want to spend it because once they start earning the money, they don't want to spend it anymore because like I remember the first lesson was when he wanted this pair of shoes and this was like when he was 13 and I told him that I would put $100 towards it. They were $400 shoes and a 13-year-old $400 shoes like just doesn't math to me. Like it doesn't make sense. And so I said, listen, I'll give you $100, which is my max on anything, any shoes. And I said, but you have to earn the rest and you can't earn it from me or your father. So like he had to figure it out. And so once he earned that money, which he did, he started doing all these jobs around the neighborhood, pressure washing, painting mailboxes. He came back and I was like, so you want to go get these shoes? He's like, no, I'm not spending my money on that.
No, this was hard earned money. Now your son's good. My daughters are like, oh, I'm going and getting the shoes.
Yeah.
Like I have a daughter and she's like, I am getting those Nike Air Forces. And I'm like, I already bought you 3 pairs of shoes. If you want those, you're on your own. And
right.
But to each their own too. It's like if you work hard and you want that thing, and I think that's hard for women sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's like you have the women that will just go and buy anything and everything and whatever. And that's totally fine. Again, no judgment here. Like it's all good. But then you have the woman that's like literally scared to buy anything that's not Target or, like I don't deserve that. I'll buy my kids the $400 shoes, but I don't deserve to go buy those Louis Vuittons that are 1,000, which I would not yet,
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
$1,000 shoes. But if you're in that place and you've served people and you're working hard and it's
Hmm.
not affecting the family budget and you want to go buy that, by all means,
Yeah, yeah.
go buy that. Go buy the bag, go buy the
Hmm.
shoes, go do the thing, right? But
Hmm.
don't do it first and
Yeah.
then
And
be
then
like,
blow through your
oh,
money, and then you have nothing to create the nest egg. And,
right.
for me, the nest egg is so important. Like it is one of the things that as women, giving up a nest egg when you have no idea what the future holds is
Yeah,
just, yeah, that's scary. You can't do that.
right.
But my son is already smart enough. He put some money already in his first IRA. Like I'm like, that's what we're talking about, the compounding that you're talking about.
Yep.
Like, just create that nest egg for yourself because you don't know what the future holds. You could
Oh,
be, trucking along and then all of a sudden a recession hits, COVID hits, some other crazy thing that has
yeah,
wiped out so many businesses and so many families that have been devastated. And
yeah.
like they thought they were good. They thought they were in good shape. But that little nest egg. And so what you were talking about with, generational wealth and, legacy building, I just think is incredibly important.
Right. And I think with kids, if like moms on here that are listening,
Yeah.
you also have to speak the language of your kids. So most
Yes.
kids are not pain driven yet, unless they had a
Hmm.
really hard upbringing,
Oh yeah.
you know, but most kids are desire,
Uh-huh.
pleasure. So like when you can say things like you could have a brand new car or the $400 shoes, you have to speak their language. I think a lot of times with parents, we want to say the things like, the nest egg and when you're 40, and they're
Oh
thinking
yeah.
like that's
That's a
like
million years from
thousands
now.
years away. Like I want this thing that's right here that's tangible because then
Yeah.
that does get them to work on it and then allow them the choice of getting like actually getting that thing and then saying,
Hmm.
is it what you thought? Is it worth the time, worth the effort, doing
Yeah.
those things? Because everybody's going to perceive that differently. Like your son with the
Yeah.
shoes, he was like, I am not buying the shoes.
Hmm.
I guarantee you, if my middle daughter went and worked for shoes. I don't care if they're $400. She would go and get those shoes because
Right.
she has loved shoes since she was 2. Like literally,
Right. Yep.
I not so much. Like, I mean, I like them, they're okay, but I am not like she is obsessed. And
Yeah.
she got new Nikes, she keeps them in the box. I told her
I
like
love
we have
it.
to spray them. She uses like a little magic eraser every night.
Uh-huh.
They're like her baby, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Now we also teach our kids like things aren't more important than people. So if her little sister happens to come in and like Sharpie on them, we still love her for
Right.
that. But I think the value like in parenting is we have to meet our kids where they're at. Like my daughter,
Yes.
the house is. She's 15. We literally have been doing this her entire life. We have
Yeah.
brought her with. She has done the work. We have told them this thing. She has seen it. So she's heard it, she's seen it, but she didn't feel it.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
didn't take it and that bite-sized chunks. And a lot of people in real estate, because we get this all the time. When me and my
Hmm.
husband go somewhere, we tell them what we do, and they're like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that."
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
like, "Why haven't you?" And they're like, "Well, the market or the money, or we don't know what to do." They have made this what I call like the Adriana effect of like,
Hmm.
that's my oldest daughter, like so big that it's like, no, when you really know the process and the steps and you get the right mentorship, honestly, the sky's the limit. But we
Yeah.
try to do it ourselves. And I think it's like we feel like the pride in that. Like I can do it on my own. I got this. I don't need anybody else. And if you're in business at all, or even in corporate
Hmm.
America, you can't do anything alone.
Oh no, no,
Nothing can be alone. So like
no.
if you want that success, that fulfillment, that life, that dream, that beauty, you're not going to get it alone. And so
Hmm.
don't go trying to do that. I wish we would have found a mentor 20 years ago
Oh my
that would have
gosh.
taken us under
Yeah.
our wing and was like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Because my husband was the sole person for like the numbers and the housing. And I just kind of let that, be his thing. And he doesn't lean on people. He's not a natural, like go to a coach or go to
Yeah.
a mentor,
Yeah.
a seminar. That's not his thing. And I kept saying like, we need to find this. And he would drag his feet. And finally this year I found somebody and I'm like, I am joining this program. I am going to learn this. I'm going to learn the lending side so we can be lenders for people who need to get started. We
Sure.
have this equity. We have this money. We have these resources. And he was like, okay, yeah, fine, do it. And now we're learning all this stuff that we're like, why didn't we do this 15 years ago,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
but that's
Yeah.
okay because it's like we weren't meant to, and here we are now. And that's why we try to help people who are getting started when they're in their 30s, because we get this a lot too. Well, Tab, we didn't start when we were in our 20s. Well, that's
Mm.
okay because we did it all wrong in our 20s anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's just learn from where we're
Right.
at so we can all advance quicker, right? So
Yeah. So tell me about some of the obstacles and some of the challenges. Tell me a couple of stories of
I
how,
don't,
because
I
trust
don't
me,
think,
I did business all wrong for many years. And then like
yeah,
people were like, "Oh, you didn't sell your first company?" And I'm like, "I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know. I
I
didn't know.
know.
I moved and I was like, well, I guess I'll just close the company." Like I didn't know I had assets in
Yes.
information. Yeah, I was like, I didn't know it was a thing. Like I wish
Yeah.
somebody had told me.
Yes.
You
You're like,
don't know
oh,
what you don't know.
no. I mean, I don't think we have enough time, but I'll go with just a couple
Right, right.
highlights. Like, how long do we have here?
I know.
The first thing was the mentorship thing. Like, I really
Yeah.
wish because I know there was good mentorship. I
Yeah.
just didn't find it or wasn't open to it, limiting beliefs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I honestly, and I think a lot of women can attest to this. I love my husband. We have a great, open, communicative relationship, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to cause a rift.
Right.
And I was like, if I go buy this program and I spend $10,000, he's
Hmm.
gonna think, why didn't we spend that on a down payment for a house? You know, like like that was his mindset. It was always like, work harder, we do it ourselves, because that's what he was taught, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I didn't want to cause a rift,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I want to be loved by him. I want to be accepted. So I wasn't going to do that. I'd do that for my thing because I'd say, you don't know my thing. But the
Hmm.
real estate, I felt like was his thing. So I
Right.
just kind of let it go. So the first mistake we made was not finding a mentorship, a group right away and like doubling down on it and
Because you
just
probably lost more than $10,000 just in mistakes, right?
millions,
Yes.
millions,
Yeah.
Angela,
Yeah.
like
So, I mean,
crazy.
$10,000 sounds like a crazy amount of money, but then when you make the mistakes, you're talking, multiples of that. And it's like,
We
had
would
I just known.
we would be at least double, if not triple, our equity right now. I mean, so you're talking millions of dollars. Like it's
Wow.
crazy. Okay. So that
Yeah.
first thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second thing would be that I did kind of bury my head in the sand. I was just kind of like, I just saw the obstacles of real estate.
Sure.
Like my husband going away, like because we did everything ourselves. I was just like, I don't know
Mm,
how many times I said, just sell the houses. I'm so tired
yeah.
of them, right? So thank God my husband's very steady, steadfast. Like
Uh-huh.
he's very patient. And he's like, no, we're not going to sell them. This is good.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think I should have been more open to like, I was in the education information space. Like, why
Yep.
was I out there seeking it? And honestly, it was just this inadequacy. Like, I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a finance person. I'm not a
Yep.
wealth person. I'm not a lender. Like, that's for the
Hmm.
bankers. Like, I just had so many preconceived things that, like, okay. So it's like not finding mentorship, kind of burying my head in the sand. Not open to, and this was me and my husband both open to, like I said, the who, like
Yeah.
who could help us, whether that was contractors, because we'd been burned. So we tried the
Mm.
who, and then instead of like trying more or like trying to find working on getting the right person, and we are like, nope, nobody's good. We'll just do it
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Like take
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
on, right? Be the
Yep.
donkey, like exhausted.
Yep.
And so finding that a little bit sooner and having the connections of that, and that all goes back to the mentorship because we could have pivoted and like moved forward. And just communicating to my husband in a loving way, like, I want to do this, but I don't know how. Can we please
Yep.
even take out a loan and find the right person? And like, I know if I would have said that to him, he would have reluctantly like done it. I just was in my own fear.
Yeah.
So as much as I know people don't like the woo woo of like mindset and we always hear these words and like abundance, prosperity, and it's almost like we just like have them floating around. It truly is like what you're holding back in here. If your heart literally like desires freedom. Now,
Yeah.
people might say, Tab, I don't want to be a millionaire. I don't care about all that. Like, that's vanity. I don't care about the houses and the cars. I just want, my family to be comfortable, or I want this to be comfortable. You're living in fear because
Hmm.
there's no
Hmm.
growth and comfort.
Hmm.
Honestly, prosperity, abundance is not a frou-frou, like intangible thing. It is a tangible thing. There are laws on money. There are laws and principles on how you think about money, the emotion with money, the vibrations or the energy with money. And when I had so many of those and I didn't even know it, and I was in the space of personal
Yeah.
development and
Yeah.
info, and I still had that. And so my husband was like way back, like with so many money blocks and so many like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, if we do this, we're going to lose our shirts, right? And living in what I call the depression. It's like
Mm.
people who grew up in the depression, like my great grandfather and my grandma, it's like they hold on to everything, right? Like
Everything.
everything. The
Yeah.
box that the blender comes in is
Yep.
still in
The
the
butter
basement.
container. Right.
Yes, like
Exactly.
they're doing it. And they're literally like, my grandma was like a millionaire when she
Mm-hmm.
died. And she was like, oh no, we got to save this little Ziploc bag,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that's a money block. And
Yep.
so whenever I come up with somebody and I'm like, hey, we're going to do this program and, say it's 30K and someone immediately is like, oh my gosh, I can't. Why is that stopping you? If this literally could help you, like I said, it cost me millions.
Mm-hmm.
It cost
Mm-hmm.
me millions. And so now, and I still have to break those and I still have to crush those limiting beliefs because those are deep rooted. Like I have to rip them out like daily. And I
Well,
think
I
for
totally
most
get that.
people,
Yeah, I totally get that because, you were saying you were raised in a small town and I was raised in a small city. And, it's the same thing. Like, as soon as you start to have any kind of, mediocre success, people
uh-huh,
start guilting you for that, right? Like, you think you're better than everybody. You think you're so smart. You think like, and they immediately will downplay everything that you're doing to the point where you're like, wait,
yes.
do I think I'm better than anybody? I don't want people to
Right.
feel like that.
Must
Like,
be
I don't want,
nice for you.
yeah, it must
I
be
get that.
nice, right? Exactly. I hate that phrase so much.
So
But
do I.
there's so much of that where it's like it's so belittling and it gets in your head and it makes you think like, gosh, I don't want anyone to think that I'm better. I don't want anyone to
Right.
think that I'm not one of them, right? And
Right.
so like
Yeah.
you immediately start trying to pull yourself back down and
Yeah.
it is ingrained in you. And
Yeah.
I literally like after college, I moved like far, like 5 states away because I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want anyone
Yeah.
to tell me these things
I
anymore.
know.
I want to be able to have a wide open,
Yes.
field of dreams that I could go after without anyone saying, oh, you think you're so much better. Oh, you think you're better than everybody else. Oh,
Right.
lucky you. And I'm like, there's no luck in this.
No.
And I worked
No.
my ass off.
I
So
know.
yeah, trust me, I know. And that it is one of the hardest things to break, those money blocks, that voice inside your head. It is so difficult and it takes daily reminding,
Yes.
daily.
And
Hmm.
that's why information will never get you to the success that you want because
Right.
everything's on YouTube.
Hmm.
Everything's on Google. Like
Hmm.
there's a course or a book on
Yeah.
everything. And literally like things that will make you successful. Like verbatim, like if you follow this, you can get this.
Yes.
And people still will say, like, must be nice for them, dot, 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 dot.
Right.
Oh, they can do this because dot, 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 dot. No, like there's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be resistance. I don't even care if you're a Rockefeller. People don't realize, but Rockefeller, who's like, I think of like the epitome of wealth, like the richest
Right.
people in the world, right?
Hmm.
They had to sell their oil under an alias
Hmm.
because they put the government was like, nope, you guys are earning too much money, so we're going to put a cap on what you can earn. So instead of being like, oh, the government, blah, 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 they're like, okay, fine. And they went around it. And people, they get ridiculed for that. And I'm like, why? They were creative with what they did. Now,
Right.
am I saying Rockefellers have always done things on integrity and morality? No,
No.
nobody did during this time. It was all crazy, right?
Right. Right.
But the thing is like if you take that out, right? Like if you take your judgment, like take your judgment mask off, because we all do things sometimes that like everyone could kind of question your integrity. And I'm a very integrous person, but when you take what their creative, their imagination, their communication, how they did that and pivoted, and then it's like they're actually worth a lot more than people think because they have so many corporations that
Hmm.
people can't add them all up for what their net worth is. And I'm like, that is being smart.
Yeah.
And when we're such a society where like we're open books and da da da, and I don't want to hide or shade, but people will also, the opposition will use that against you.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like you do have to do things to protect yourself and protect your house and protect the things that are good. And money is just a tool. Money is not
Hmm.
good. It is not evil. It is only a tool. It is neutral. The only time it is good or it is evil is for what it is used for. And that
Right.
is the person and the heart. And I tell people all the time, for believers out there, why wouldn't God want more good people to have money as a tool to do good? Like it's
Right.
silly to like, no, he's going to humble you and make you poor. No, he's going to humble you in ways that you don't even know yet. Like
Yeah.
you're making yourself poor. You're humbling your own self, like he doesn't have to do that. There's other ways to do that. But that keeps us safe because
Mm-hmm.
making money, something that's talked about in the Bible more than anything,
Yeah.
something that causes more awkwardness in a conversation for people, more
Yes.
emotion than even when you talk about sexual predators, like money. Like people would
Mm-hmm.
rather talk about sexual predators than money. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
crazy,
it's such a
right?
taboo topic. Yeah,
It's such a
absolutely.
taboo topic. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Because we limit ourselves, our own fear with it, and what we have to do to create it. We have to give ourselves more. We have to be servants. We have to be the lowly man, right? Like we have to give more value. We have to take our pride down. And most people don't want to do that. And we have to be vulnerable with it. And then we have to ask ourselves, is this running us or is it the other way around? And so, even like in the real estate realm, seriously, people, there isn't a millionaire on the earth that does not own real estate because they
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
even if
absolutely.
it's not what got them wealthy, they know what it does, at least in America, that 51% of your W-2 taxes, if you have a job, it goes to the government. You have to figure out a way. And even as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, it's not quite as high, but it's still pretty high. It's the highest bill you will pay is your taxes.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know that, and you have an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of it, and you have the who that can manage it. It's a no-brainer. Like it's not rocket science. This isn't like a hidden secret. You don't
Yeah,
have to go
right.
to Atlantis here. It is like flat out, it's been proven over and over. And so why doesn't everybody do it?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I think real estate's one of those things that, everybody should own a piece of property, whether it's yours, whether it's a rental, whether, whatever it is, land. There's just so much opportunity out there, so
Yeah.
much opportunity. So what do you think
Yeah.
about the interest rates right now? Is that something that should deter people or no?
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, no. No, 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 no. Like stop looking at banks. There are so
Yeah.
many money lenders out there. There are so many ways around it. There
Mm-hmm.
even at the interest rate that it is, especially if
Yeah.
you're trying to look as an income standpoint. Now, if you're trying to build your dream home and things like that, still don't be scared. You have to look at it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
But like if
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at this for wealth perspective, okay, like you go with your interest rate now. Again, even if you're losing money for the first couple of years, remember, guys, you're in this long game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you
Mm-hmm.
think interest rates are going to come down? Yes, they do. It happens. Maybe not quite as low as they were, 3 or 4 years ago,
Right.
but they're going to come down. It's just look at patterns, guys. Look at patterns. Like, don't look at this as emotion. Like, look at it in patterns. It's going to come back down. Do you think you might be able to refinance then? Yes, you will. And you refinance. And then all of a sudden it becomes an income property. Look at the numbers, look at the long-term game. You can't just look at the numbers for like a month. You have to look at the numbers for like 3 or 4 years. And then also say, okay, how can I be creative? Is there other people's money
Right.
that
Right.
who is there other people's money that they're willing to come in on this deal with me? They're willing to whatever. There's so many opportunities out there. We just don't want to see it because it takes more energy and time and we don't want to look stupid, especially if it's someone like that's professional, like a
Mm-hmm.
doctor or lawyer. They're like, I'm smart. I don't need, no, you're smart in your craft.
Right. Right.
That
Right.
doesn't mean you're smart in every area. Allow somebody else to come in, build a trust factor with them, everything again, make everything legitimate, get a lawyer, cover yourself. I'm not saying go in here with like, a handshake. You got to be diligent about that. But no, like if you looking at the interest rate now is stopping you, don't do real estate
Yeah.
because you're going to go crazy. You're going to be the one that like every month, like, oh my gosh, we had a light bulb go out and oh my gosh, we're -6. No, no, no.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to look at it from like a bigger perspective because, I'm one that's like live your day, like every day, like it's your last day, but at the same
Right.
time, live your day like you're going to be 100.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if I'm going to be 100, like I don't care what it does this year. Like I'm gonna love my loved ones like I'm dying tomorrow, but I'm gonna live my investments like I'm gonna live to 100.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just a perspective that you have to have with this.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So, who inspires you?
Oh man. Okay, like this is gonna sound like totally if anyone's in the personal development stage, Tony Robbins was
Yeah.
one that I know a lot of people say and they're like, yeah, I look at it from where he was like in
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s and his personality and where he is now. He has a 3-year-old daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter. So like
Oh.
age, like we had babies like around the same time, and he's like 62. And
Uh-huh.
so I'm 39. So like, but I look at his life perspective and like what he's been through, and he literally could be like hang up his hats. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he has so much money and so much impact, and he's made so much impact, and he still continues to do the hard things. And
Mm-hmm.
that I look up to, because anytime I don't want to do the hard thing, I'm like, it's not like, oh, I could never be a Tony Robbins. I'm not meant to be a Tony Robbins, but what he does physically, mentally to make himself a better human,
Mm-hmm.
it's just really, that really does inspire me. You know,
Yeah.
I really, that does. Beyond that, I mean, other than like honestly Jesus, like that
Mm-hmm.
sounds really weird, but it's
Yeah.
like I could literally live like Jesus did, man. He was so giving. Every day I'm like, oh, I fall short of that. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't get wrapped up in other people, because I always think you don't know the full story. Like Sarah Blakely, of course, her
Mm-hmm.
story is amazing. You don't know behind the scenes. Oprah, like her story is
Mm-hmm.
amazing, and she's been through this turmoil and all this stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes when people get this like idol mentality of other things, it's like you don't really know what they went through. Even if you read the
Absolutely.
biography, even if
Yeah.
you have everything, it's like you don't live their day to day for me to
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh my gosh, like I don't get starstruck very
No,
often.
yeah, me
Like,
neither.
you know, it's just like, I even think if I saw a celebrity, I mean, I'd kind of be like, oh, okay. But like, I don't get engulfed in that realm. Speakers inspire me more than anything. And I might
Yeah.
not even know their name, but it's the stories that they tell and how
Yep.
they tell them that inspires me more than just like a particular human, because there's a lot of amazing humans on
Mm-hmm.
this earth, and
Yeah.
humans that we'll never know their name,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so it's like I just think the stories of that and just humanity of like how you can make yourself better even when things are already great. And I think that's why Tony Robbins for me is because you can do things to make yourself great when you're at the bottom because you want to get to the top. But when you're already at the top and you're still doing things to make you great, and not just for to be famous and not just to have accolades, but literally because you want to be better,
Mm-hmm.
that is like the epitome of that. And I still don't even think Tony Robbins has got the recognition that he should.
Yeah.
Like, even though like most people know who he is, but unless you're in the industry that we're in, it's like, oh yeah, Tony Robbins, that motivational guy. But like who he truly is as a human being, I think it'll be way past his time when he'll finally get the recognition that he deserves.
Wow. It's interesting. Yeah, I read a lot of his stuff and watched a lot of his videos. He's very motivational, but you're right. He's very, very, very dedicated. So, and that dedication is what is the drive. You know, that's what
Right.
helps to make it all come together.
Yeah.
So as women, we give away our power all the time, whether, whatever that looks like, we just give away our power. So
Yep.
you kind of touched on it a little bit when you were talking about like, I knew this was the right thing to do, but I was afraid to say it. So
Yep.
can you tell me about another time that you gave your power away and then another time when you stepped into your power?
Um, honestly, I think my early 20s, I would say I gave my power away the most in my
Yeah.
teenage years. My teenage years and my 20. I
Hmm.
was always told I was too loud.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I was too strong, like strong personality, like, and I just came across too strong for people. Even
Yeah.
though they thought that I was really happy and upbeat, it was like too much, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I needed to quiet down, and I needed to, keep the lid on it, right? So like in college, I was like, oh, when I drink, people think I'm fun.
Hmm.
When I don't drink, like I better keep it lid down, right? And so
Right.
when I would drink, I'd be just this loud and fun. And then my sister was an alcoholic, and I went through all that with her, and I'm like, I am just going to be me and never touch alcohol again, because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I fortunately didn't get sucked into that where like I very easily could have been.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think for me, thinking small, like growing up, I was always like, I need to get a good job. Like, I need to go
Hmm.
to college. I need to get a good job because I need to make money, because we struggled a lot growing up. But I also wanted time freedom, but I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how to marry those. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just kept it small. And even when I got involved with the direct selling company, unfortunately, there were people above me that were making more money than me. But honestly, like I just had a better stage presence. I could deliver messages better, and they wouldn't let me speak because I wasn't making as much money as them.
What? That's crazy.
And but it did teach me two things. It taught me like, okay, money does talk. Like you have to show up in
Mm-hmm.
that. Like Tab, you can't just live in this world and be like artsy, da da da. Like you can't just live fulfilled. Like you have to show success in this world, like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
agree with it or not, it is like it's like a law. Like you have to, like if you want to be like known and seen, you have to kind of put the money where the your words are. And so I learned that lesson, but I also learned like I wasn't going to let that be my story, and I was going to
Yeah.
let other people, and kind of do that. So I gave a lot of the power away then. Honestly, when my mom passed away in 2015, my sister passed away in 2018.
Mm.
When my sister passed away, there was a lot of limiting beliefs to that because she was like my best friend, but because she was an alcoholic, I was her punching bag. So like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the, oh, must be nice to be you. Oh, Tab, you're so loud. Oh, you always want new clothes. Like all the things that I desired, it was like wrong in her eyes. Well,
Yeah.
I valued her opinion. So I shrank really small while she was alive. And when she passed away, I was able to like release those chains. But then with that felt guilt. So I had to like work through all of that of like, okay, this is who I am. And I didn't want her to die for that to happen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was just that weird feeling. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think I really came into myself then, was like, no, I'm going to do this. It's when I launched my first business,
Yeah.
separate from somebody else. It was when I just would take those steps where I became a co-author. I started speaking more. All the steps. I started my first podcast then. Like, I can do this. I'm free of that. Now, honestly, I would say on a monthly basis, like I give my power away, I take it back. I give
Yeah.
my power away, I
Yeah.
take it back. And, those insecurities, they don't just go away overnight. And I hope one day that it's like years, where it's not months. But I mean, there are certain times when I'm like, I know I shrink. I
Yeah.
know I give
Yeah.
my power away because whatever, I want to serve somebody else in this way, or I want them to have their dreams, or like I'm a mom. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my kids deserve to have this. I will not do
Mm-hmm.
this, or this thing here, or is this selfish, or whatever story. And so I give it away in little bits, and then I'll look back and I'll be like, wait a second,
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like,
Yeah.
that is not who you are. Come into who you are. Stop people pleasing, because you're never going to please people. Like even my
Mm-hmm.
husband,
Yeah.
I'm not called on this earth to please other people. I'm called
Right.
on earth to fulfill my calling, my
Mm-hmm.
gifts on this planet. And I find myself, and you might find yourself in this in business, like if I'm not getting paid for it, does it really matter? It's
Right.
kind of like if you scream in the forest and nobody hears you, something like that. Do you really scream? Does anyone hear it? It's kind
Right.
of like that. But I have to step back and be like, I'm still giving my gift. Like this
Yeah.
podcast right now is
Mm-hmm.
not going to make me any money in this
Right.
moment right here. You did not pay me to come on this podcast, right?
Right. Right.
That doesn't mean that down the line it won't, but that doesn't denote my message here. That doesn't mean that I need to dull down and be like, well, I'm not going to get paid for it anyway. So I'm going to be in sweatpants and just be like, yeah, whatever, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to
Mm-hmm.
give everything no
Right.
matter what, because money
Mm-hmm.
doesn't rule me. See, before in my network marketing company, when people said I couldn't speak because I wasn't making enough money, that set a seed. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, but wait a second here. Like, I am powerful. Like, my voice is powerful. And God really showed me this a couple years ago after my fifth daughter. Like, you are meant to roar. Like, your voice is meant to be heard, whether you get paid for it or not, whether it's your income source or not. Like, you
Right.
gave you the gift of speech, but it is your
Mm-hmm.
job to perfect it.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
out there and just jabber and talk and vanity and what everybody does, and venting, because I can do
Mm-hmm.
that too. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to hone that. And I think women, when we give our power away, it's like, oh, well, God didn't really want that, or I wasn't really meant to do that. No, 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 no. You have that gift, but it wasn't sharpened yet.
Mm-hmm.
We have to sharpen our skill set and our gifts, and then you'll know. Like, you'll just know it's what gives you energy when you're doing your gift.
Well, and I think influence is one of the most precious things we could give. Like when you teach, when you educate, when you
Yeah.
influence, when you are putting a positive message out there and you are inspiring other people to
Yeah.
live their dreams, it's one of the
Yes.
best ways you can give back. That's
Yes.
not monetary. Like
Yes.
you are actually creating so much wealth for yourself just in the ability to affect others,
Yeah.
and that as well.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So, one last question. And I have really, really enjoyed talking to you, Tab. You are such a wealth of information, and I have just enjoyed it. You have so much energy, and I love it. And don't ever shrink yourself for anyone. So,
I work on it every day, but yes, it is. It's
you
and there
are
are women on there just
amazing.
yes, there's women on here. And I just want you, if you've quieted your voice or someone who's told you you're too loud, too energetic, to just
Hmm.
stop it. Like stop listening
Yeah.
to them. They're not
Yes.
the ones who need to hear it because there's other ones that need what you have.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. So, my last question is, what do you wish more people knew?
Other than the wealth
Yeah.
principles of that, because I really do think that that is an unveiling. That's one of my
Hmm.
missions on earth, why God put me here, is to lift the veil of like wealth and money.
Yeah.
I think so many people have that, and it saddens me because so many people, they're so close to it, and it's like the veil. So I think, first of all, that, but more importantly, what we just talked about is the veil of your gifts.
Hmm.
You literally were put on this planet for a purpose. And I know you hear that, and it's a bumper
Hmm.
sticker, and it's a book,
Hmm.
and it's a Saturday night special. But literally, like, no one has your DNA, no one has your personality or characteristics all meshed together. Your gifting. For
Hmm.
some reason, you thought it wasn't as important as XYZ
Right.
because we compare ourselves. Or
Hmm.
your gifting got you in trouble in school or with parents or caused you some sort of pain. And you
Hmm.
thought, nope, that's not a real gift. Like people make money by helping other people build relationships. People make money by packaging things because they're very organized and precise. Like there isn't a job, a skill set on this planet that you can't monetize. But beyond that, what again energizes you, what fulfills you, and I promise you, you can make that into an income. I
Yeah.
promise you, because in our world today, literally, there is people who pick up other people's dog poop for a living. Like,
Yes.
it's a job for everything and
True.
all in between. Okay, so there isn't a skill set, something that you have inside, but again, there was something that caused you pain along the way, and you know what it is, like you really do, and the fear is there. It's
Yeah.
just not, I don't want to say it's not real because for some people it literally is like a physical thing. Like they feel the fear. The problem is you've kept it inside. And I encourage you today to go to a girlfriend, a safe person, whether that's your spouse, your mom, your sister, a girlfriend, and literally go to them. And if you don't know what it is, ask them. But if you do, share it with them. Like just
Hmm.
bring it to light. That's all I'm asking. You don't have to go pursue a singing career. Just
Right,
say, I've
right.
always wanted to be a singer. Like tell somebody. And
Yeah.
I promise you, I promise you, and if not, find me on Instagram and say, Tab, you promised me and you didn't. Okay. I promise you, if you give it a little at a time, like God will bring fruition to that. Whether
Hmm.
that's you become like, say it's a singer, all of a sudden you're going to be offered to sing at church or at community centers, or someone's going to ask you for voice lessons. Something will happen, and it might be little and you might not notice it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take notice, because when I finally said, okay, God, use my voice, I was asked to speak on podcasts. I was asked to host my own podcast. I was asked to speak on other people's stages. Things started happening. Like it wasn't what I wanted yet, but it was the little stair steps to it. And then doors open of like, oh, this is how you get on bigger stages. I'm
Yes.
not there yet, but I'm open to that. And because I did the little things, I'm going to be ready for the big things. Even in real estate, I told you guys, we did it wrong for 20 years.
Yeah.
Don't do it
Yeah.
that way, all this stuff. But it all led to where we are right now. And if this
Hmm.
opportunity was given to us even 5 years ago, I don't know if we would have taken it. I really
Hmm.
don't, because we weren't in the place. God knows the timing, the universe, whatever you believe. Like I believe that God knows your timing more than you, but you have to speak it.
Hmm.
Verbally express it, write it down, share it with somebody, but then don't close it up.
Hmm. Yeah.
You have
Agreed.
to say it and then like become ultra aware. like, oh, there was a singer on TV. Like, honestly, and some people think that this happens by chance, and I still think it's God, whether it's Facebook or not. But all of a sudden I started getting these ads on Facebook that was like speaking stuff. And then like Netflix, you know how like Netflix like says like what your suggested things are?
Right,
It was
right.
speakers and like documentaries, which is speaking, right? And like
Uh-huh.
all this stuff started coming up, and I'm like, okay, like
That's interesting.
I'm going to be aware of it. Now there is a science thing for that, where part of your brain, but that's why I want you to say it, because then you will start to recognize it, because God has already been showing you, but you have just
Absolutely.
been oblivious to it because it's been so buried. So if you
Mhm.
bring it to fruition, your brain scientifically will show you the steps to that. And then guess what happens? You're happy, you're
Mhm.
joyful, you're playful with your spouse, you're playful with your kids notice it, your coworkers notice it, you're a joy instead of that like, oh, it must be good to be them, and
Yeah.
oh, session, and oh,
Woe is
groceries are
me.
so expensive. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how expensive groceries are. Go make more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they're expensive. I spend over $1,000 a month on groceries for my
Uh-huh.
family. Like,
Yeah.
it happens. So I got to go work, and I got to
Yep.
find a thing that's passionate for me, So it's like, stop
Mhm.
being the woe is me and start being the light. And you start by just saying what you love, what you're gifted at. Remember when you were a kid, I've always liked to talk. I've always liked to teach and, be that person that's like inspiring for people. I've always loved that. I just closed it because so many people made fun of me for it. But
Absolutely.
nowadays, do it. Take that leap.
I agree. Well, thank you. You are amazing. I think you are just so inspiring. So thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So how can people find you?
I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Most of the time, it's either Tab Thorell or Tabatha Thorell. And if you don't have the links, I'll get them to you. Keep
Yep.
Legacy Wealth is the
Yep.
website. If you guys are like, Tab, I want to know more about real estate, or how can we build these wealth principles in my kids? I want to be more connected with my kids. I don't want my job or my business to come in between me and my family, because
Hmm.
ultimately, most of the time you work because you want to provide for your family. You want more time with
Right.
your family, right? So
Hmm.
when you can connect with that and you can be around other people, community people, my husband and I are building a community of people of I mean, we're talking high level here, because we want the high level people that want to make that impact, not only for their business, but as a family vision, family focused. And that's what we're looking for. That's keeplegacywealth.com. We have some freebies on there as well. And I
Awesome.
have a podcast called What Went Wrong? The Untold Stories of Bouncing Back. So
Oh,
check
I
us
love
out
that.
on
That's very,
every
very cool.
platform and YouTube and all that stuff.
Very cool. And you can also find all of those links. So hopefully they're all on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. So we'll make sure they're all there. So thank you so much again, Tab. You've been amazing.
Thank you. Thanks
And
for
absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.